Today I am drinking a plum wine that I got from Total Wine and More. It was from like Door Peninsula Winery. It's pretty good. I had a different plum wine. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember the bottle that I got from Whole Foods, but they only had it one time and they never had it again. So I thought I could find it at Total Wine and More, but I couldn't. So I got that wine, which is pretty good. Like, I think I just like plum wines because plums have a nice sweet taste to them. So it gives their wine like a sweeter taste. But the one at Whole Foods was definitely better. Like, I don't really like carbonated wine. That's not my thing. And this one's kind of carbonated. And the other one was like pure wine, and it was like 14%. This one's like 11. But you know, we're gonna take what we can get. So yeah, it was plum wine for today. Enough with my rambling. Let's get into this crazy story. As you all know, I have my notes. So this is the story of Evelyn Dick, also known as the Torso Murder. Well, the case is known as the Torso Murder. So Evelyn Dick was, hold on, she was born as Evelyn McLean and on October 13th, 1920. Her parents were Scottish immigrants, and their names were Donald and Alexandra McLean. Her father worked for the Hamilton Street Railway as a streetcar conductor, which is pretty much like a train conductor. But he, through working there, gets promoted to a desk job. And later on, he is suspected of stealing money. It is said that he's suspected of stealing money because the family lived well, and they always had tons of money in their bank accounts and lavish clothes, etc. But it was never proven. Like, he never got tried or anything for stealing money. So who knows? That's just like town gossip, you know. So growing up, her father was an alcoholic and her mother had a wicked temper. So it was said that her parents did not get along and they spent a lot of time apart, which kind of made for a weird home life for Evelyn growing up. I would say that Evelyn could be described as uppity. Like, she didn't associate with any of the neighborhood kids because her parents thought that she was too fragile to be playing out in the streets, you know. And they were like middle class, wealthy, but they came from like lower middle class, you know. Like back when her father Donald was working as just a streetcar conductor, I think they would be considered more lower middle class, and he got promoted, so they were more like middle class, higher middle class. But even at that, Evelyn wanted to break into the wealthy circles in town. She wanted to be of the upper class and the upper echelon. So she would do things such as host these lavish parties and spend money freely on her acquaintances. But no matter what she did, she was never truly accepted in like the more affluent circles and communities. They never like truly accepted her into their circles. Let's take a wine break because my throat's a little dry. first, then would be considered proper. I don't really know what that means. Like, maybe she was like flashy or living in excess, which is what they mean when they say more than what would be considered proper. But that's how it was described. She also spent a lot of time with older men and at places such as the racetrack and even going out of town. So I think the rumors were that like she was a like an escort or sugar baby, you know, and the townspeople would start chitter chatter about that, which make your money, girl, don't let it make you. So she was getting how she lived. I see no problems with that. Like, I don't know, I support sex work in general as long as people are being safe and, you know, doing it because it's something that they want to do. Like, what does it matter to anybody else? So, moving along. So, in 1942, I believe she was aged 22 or 21, one of those, she gave birth to her daughter, which just further fueled the rumors that, you know, she was some sort of sex worker, essentially. And her daughter's name was Heather. So when she gets pregnant, Evelyn makes up this story that she was married to some man that was stationed overseas, whose last name was White, like whatever his name was. So say if the man's name was Larry, he was Larry White. Okay. So, military records failed to prove the existence of this man at all, so that was a lie. But Heather White was born and she had mental retardation as described in everything I read. So yeah. After that, the next summer, Evelyn gave birth to a second child, but that child was a stillborn. And then in September of 1944, she was pregnant again and gave birth to her son named Peter David White. She states that she gave Peter David White up for adoption, which I think was interesting because I don't know if that was like super common back then, and I'm sure she probably faced a lot of you know, social stigma around it, saying she gave her son up for adoption. But hey, then little later in June of 1945, Evelyn announces to her family, which at this point included her daughter Heather and her mother Alexandra. Yes, her mother Alexandra. She announced to them that she would be marrying this man named John Dick. And she had only been with John Dick for about a month, and she said that they were getting married in 2 weeks. At this point, her mom had never even heard of this man that she was dating, so this kind of took everybody off guard. So, on the day of Saturday, March 16th, 1946, a group of 5 kids find what they suspect to be a headless pig. You heard me, a headless pig. In the town's escarpment. I wasn't sure what that word meant, so I googled it, and it's basically like a cutoff in town, like a drop off, a was like a wooded area, and like the kids were just out playing, and they came across what they thought was a headless pig. It is, comes to find out that it is actually the torso of an adult man with the head, arms, and legs nowhere to be found. There was a deep wound in the abdomen, which told the investigators that somebody tried to cut the torso into two, but they weren't able to. They just gave up. So, a little while later, the body gets identified as John Dick. And John Dick is a train conductor for the Hamilton Street Railways. He basically gets identified because his cousin reported to the police that John had been missing since March 16th. Well, this happened on March 16th. John had been missing since March 6th. The cousin said he heard the news of the torso and he was worried because he knew that John had been living with him since he got married, and he sensed that John's and Evelyn's marriage could possibly have been tumultuous. So he brought this information to the authorities, and they were able to identify the body as John Dick. So during this time, leading up to the murder, Evelyn had bought a house, and John even helped give her money for the down payment. But she basically told John that he couldn't live there, which is why he was living with his cousin, and she would not put his name on the mortgage, despite the fact that they were married. Yeah, so that's a little odd for a married couple, especially a newlywed married couple, to not live together at all. But that was this situation. So, pretty much immediately after they identify the body, Evelyn is taken into questioning. And y'all, this lady, literally, these are quoted statements. She says, "Don't look at me. I don't know anything about it." Okay, like, guilty much? Don't look at me. I don't know anything about it. Like, what? That just seems like such an improper thing to say after you find out that your husband was just brutally murdered, you know? And people deal with grief in different ways, but she had like no signs of sadness. The first thing she wanted to do was divert blame from herself, you know? So that was suspicious. And then she goes on to tell this story where she describes some nicely dressed Italian man coming to her house looking for John and says he's going to fix him for messing with his wife. So, like, basically, Shorty is saying the mob came up to her door looking for John. Like, okay, very believable story, homegirl. So, a few days after they interview Evelyn, they find that she borrowed a car from a man named Bill Dick. And when she returned the car was bloody. There were seat covers missing, and there were bloody clothes in the back of the car. Evelyn states that Heather, her daughter, cut herself and made a mess in the car, and that's where the blood came from. That was all over. So basically, Evelyn just continued to make up these crazy lies, stating that some pregnant woman called her, saying that she was having John's baby and all of this different stuff. She was was like leading police to these dead ends where she thought she had clues on where to find the rest of John's body and all of this stuff. She was basically just like giving everyone the runaround and creating these ridiculous lies. With the pregnant woman incident, Evelyn even stated like that's a mean trick to break up a home. Like even trying to put the death off on her, saying like maybe she did this to break up her home. I don't know. It was very weird. So she just continues to deny conspiring to kill John, even though everything is starting to point to her. She's just being suspicious, you know. It was stated that her responses and her demeanor were quite inappropriate, and a later psych test proved that she was borderline between having dull, normal, and moron-like intelligence. And I'm not like 100% sure what that even means, but what I thought about was like that scene in Forrest Gump where his mom is trying to get him into that regular school, and like the principal guy holds up that paper and he's like, this is where our average students are and this is where Forrest is, and he was like a couple points shy of being normal. That's similar to what I think is happening here with Evelyn, like a similar type of test and results and everything, borderline between being dull and normal and a complete moron. I don't know, moron is the word that was used and moron is the word of the time, but I don't know, I feel weird saying that, but so basically she just wasn't the strongest strain at the dispensary, you guys. And they said that she even had the mental capacity of a 13-year-old. So, which kind of makes sense because if you think about what a 13-year-old does when they get caught or in trouble or something, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna lie and lie and lie and lie, and they think in their minds, in their little 13-year-old minds, that these lies are really working. But to someone who's an adult, you clearly see that these lies are bullshit. But it's something about a teenager, especially like a preteen teenager, they're gonna stick to that lie, and that's like what she was doing. She was just lying and lying and lying with these crazy lies, and she was really sticking to her lies, you know. So, she states that Bill Polosek and Donald McLean, Donald is her father. I'm not sure who Bill was. I'm assuming he was a person that she actually hired to kill John. But she states that they were the ones who actually killed John. And evidence was found on them also. So they found proof of a bullet that matched one that Bill Polosek had. A bullet that matched a gun that Bill Polosek had. And then they also found John's bloody shoes in Donald McLean's basement. While they were looking for, you know, John's arms and legs and shit, they search her house, and in the attic of her house, they find her baby, Peter David White, in a suitcase full of concrete, dead. She she was found guilty of murder, and she was sentenced to death by hanging. Guilty of murder of John, and she was sentenced to death by hanging. They thought that she probably did not kill him herself, but she organized and conspired to kill him, and she pretty much set everything up and assisted in hiding his body and stuff. So she was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. But Evelyn is, I don't think, as slow as everyone thinks she is, because she goes up for appeal. Evelyn's statements to the police were improperly admitted into evidence, and that trial judge was not properly instructed by the jury. That's what they found out at her appeal. The result of this is that Bozek walked because Evelyn and the only other witness would not testify against him. Donald McLean, which was her dad, was found as an accessory to the crime, and he served 5 years. Evelyn was then found guilty of manslaughter of her son and sentenced to life, but she was paroled in 1952 after only serving about 11 to 12 years. What happened after that is completely unknown. She was like a high-profile, high-media case in Canada, and when people are like high-media cases and everyone knows about the case, very sensationalized, when they're released, they're given like a whole new identity so that they can live lives as regular people and not have that following them in their everyday life. So yeah, she's out of prison, but we don't know what happened with her after that, and I think that is crazy. I think Evelyn is smarter than people are making her out to be, and I think that she was very strategic in asking for the appeal and even somehow getting out on parole. And I also find it crazy that they never found the head, arms, and legs of John. And when you think about it, no one is really convicted of his murder because Bill Bozek walks. Donald McLean, he only serves 5 years, and he's just an accessory to the crime. And Evelyn gets charged with the murder of her son, which has nothing to do with John. And I don't know, y'all. I just think that that's crazy. Like, they really let that lady out of jail. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, people like this don't make the same mistake twice. And if she would have just hit the torso, wherever she hit the arms and legs, she would have never gotten caught. So if y'all get my drift, this lady could be out here. Well, she's probably dead by now, but she could have been out here wreaking havoc on other people. We don't know. But, yeah, so that was the story of Evelyn Dick. It was pretty crazy to be, the baby in the suitcase, filled with concrete. Yeah, that was crazy when I first was, like, researching this. And I found it interesting, like, oh, she gave her baby up for adoption. Like, that's very forward for her time. No. She killed the baby. Like, oh my gosh. I just thought that was so crazy. So, yeah, tell me what you guys think. Have you heard this story before? And what do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments. But with that being said, that is gonna be the end of this video. So don't forget to like, comment, like to see another video